Each of us possess a rune, which is our soul, our brain, our consciousness. The game suggests that this rune functions like a star with mass and gravity. As we collect more runes, more mass, the gravitational pull increases, resulting in the rune's collapse into a black hole. A powerful enough individual, like a lord, becomes their own singularity. Souls are stars, but the reverse may also be true. Stars are souls. The sun may be a giant golden rune that was imbued into the Erd tree. By equating the pull of gravity to the pull of meaning, as described by the laws of causality and regression, we can conjoin the laws governing the outer order, the heavens and stars, to the inner order, the self and the soul. All these ideas stem from the main idea of this video, the idea that we have stars within us.
Heresy is not native to the world. It is but a contrivance. All things can be conjoined.
The Graven School and Graven Mass talismans tell us that glintstone sorcerers collect other sorcerers to fashion them into the seeds of stars. They do this because they are studying the primeval current, and this practice is but another path of scientific inquiry. Why do they think this is possible? Why can sorcerers be used to create the seed of stars? I've been playing around with the idea that golden runes are actually stars, and at their center is a tiny little black hole. A disclaimer before we dive into things. In this video, the term and symbol of a black hole will be used a few different ways. We'll use it to reference real black holes, we'll use it to represent the idea of a central pull of gravity, and simply as a hole that is black, which we will use to make connections between pieces of visual evidence. If you order the rune objects into a row, visually they progress from a star seed to small and yellow to large and red. This is reminiscent of how small yellow suns grow to red giants. Stars form from the gravitational collapse of dense regions within large gaseous clouds out in space. In the game, runes are depicted as being gaseous, as seen in the eyes of these skulls. When we break them, they drop Golden Rune 1. Golden Rune 1 looks like a tiny little black hole attracting gold to itself, like a real black hole pulls in gas. This is the seed of stars, aka mass. Gravity increases with the amount of mass an object has. The seed is enough mass to trigger gravitational collapse, which results in a star. The arsenal charm resembles a mass of weaponry, supporting that the game's definition of a mass is a coming together of objects. The flock canvas talisman symbolizes how a group of people can come together as a mass. To get mass, you need to bring people together, specifically sorcerers. This process of gathering mass is what's being depicted in the Graven School and Graven Mass talismans. The reason why the Graven School and Graven Mass talismans are bundles of heads may be because the runes are located inside our heads. The Golden Rune 1 objects drop from skulls with glowing eyes. The inside of Estelle's head bears resemblance to the Lord's rune. The Preceptor's mask has a rune-like gold design in the middle of its forehead. Nazur and Lusat's glintstone crowns have golden rune symbolism, a golden circle outside and a black hole on the inside. And when we recollect our dropped runes, they return to the middle of our forehead. I believe that the rune represents our soul, our memory, our brain. We discussed this previously in the Tree of Memories video. To quickly recap, golden runes are equivalent to the souls in Dark Souls. Each of us possess a rune, and these runes are equivalent to our souls. Runes are souls. The runes also represent our memory. Small r runes are experience, which is essentially memory, and the golden runes are the vessels for these runes, these memories. In real life, the brain is the vessel for our memories, and the brain is in our head, which explains the visual evidence of the rune being in our head. It's widely accepted in the community that runes are eyes, but this does not exclude that the runes also represent the soul and the brain. The eyes are the windows to the soul. You can think of the runes as the impression inside created by what the eyes see. Like how Marika is the vision's vessel. One interpretation of gravitational collapse is the collapse of gaseous matter into a star. If each sorcerer possesses a golden rune in their skull, and each golden rune has a mass of gravity at its center, then amassing enough sorcerers will get you enough runes to get enough mass to allow gravitational collapse, thus forming a star. My friend OKAstronaut9501 posted a wonderful theory on Reddit showing that the graven talismans may also represent the gravitational collapse of many stars into a black hole. Returning to the progression of the runes, we can learn more about what happens as these runes gain more mass. From the progression of Heroes Rune 3 to Heroes Rune 4, something interesting happens. In Heroes Rune 3, an orange fire-like halo begins to form around the outside. Then, in Heroes Rune 4, a new black hole is created, perhaps due to the mass collapsing inwards. This is a true lightless void, different from Golden Rune 1, whose black center still has traces of gold in it. This is the gravity diagram of a normal star and a black hole, aka a singularity. The more massive the star, the deeper the well in the center is. For a black hole, the gravitation is so intense that it has punched a hole in the fabric of space-time. We call this hole in space-time a singularity. The game is familiar with the concept of a gravity well. There's literally a sorcery, Gravity Well, that fires a projectile of condensed gravitational force, and its icon art looks akin to the gravity well diagram for the singularity. I think what we are witnessing in the progression of the runes is a small mass of gravity growing into a black hole, into a singularity. It's pretty wild and perhaps no coincidence that the first picture ever taken of a black hole kinda has the same visual imagery as the Lord's rune. This red-orange halo around the outside of the central hole is the accretion disk, a hot, thin, rotating disk of gas, dust, and other matter that is slowly spiraling into the black hole. We see a process similar to this in the eye of the fire giant. The red energy is falling into the central black hole of the eye, that is the iris. Thank you to my dear friend Scummage Infa for pointing this out and providing this footage. In his latest video, he also discusses black holes, if you'd like to check it out. Since runes are souls and we each have one, a powerful enough individual, like a lord, becomes their own singularity. This may have something to do with the reason why the Lord of Frenzy's head looks like an enormous, fiery black hole. While I think there's evidence that both the Lord's rune and the Lord of Frenzy's head represent black holes, they clearly have different natures, and I'm not yet sure why. This will be a question we explore in future videos. The idea that gravity is a trait of the individual is expressed in the Ash of War gravitas, which creates a gravity well. The definition of gravitas is dignity, seriousness, or solemnity of manner. Using your gravitas, your inner gravity, you can create a gravity well. Vare even says the line, "Do you comprehend the gravity of this choice?" An individual can have gravity in a metaphorical sense, but this is a fantasy game, and in this fantasy world, the souls of individuals actually have gravity. This theory explains how Melina helps us turn our runes into strength. Runes are our experience points, and we use them to upgrade our physical and mental player stats, thus increasing our strength. As we gain more runes, more strength, these golden runes grow larger, eventually becoming Heroes runes and Lords runes. The growth of runes parallels the growth of stars. As the mass of a star increases, its gravitational pull increases, and the weight that one feels from that gravitational pull is stronger. As the verdigris discus tells us, great weight makes for great strength. The more runes we accumulate, the more mass we accumulate, the more weight we have. Thus, the more strength we have. This appears to be the process that Melina is assisting us with, helping us to turn lowercase r runes that we gather via battle and experience into actual physical strength, which is correlated with an increase in mass, gravity, and weight. One implication of this is that the power to turn runes into strength, aka weight, that Melina leaves with us is related to the ability to convert gaseous matter, aka runes, into gravitational pull or weight. Melina's unopened left eye is purple, the color of gravity sorcery, and her open right eye is gold, the color of runes. This pattern could hint at her role in converting gaseous golden runes to purple gravitational pull. Another implication of this is that lowercase r runes have mass. There may be a physics term for what runes are: matter. Matter is all the stuff that exists in the universe, anything that occupies space and has mass. This could explain why all living beings give us runes when we kill them, and why we can sell items in exchange for runes. We basically break them down into raw matter. The word matter has an interesting etymology. It comes from the Latin materia, substance from which something is made. Also, hard inner wood of a tree, which is a fun connection to how we previously hypothesized that the Erd tree is made of runes. Materia comes from mater, meaning origin, source, or mother, which is fun because Marika hangs within the Erd tree. And we literally have a character who is a mother and associated with space and gravity named Meter. The rune is our soul, and the game suggests that it's also a star. The best evidence for this is that in the Preceptor's big hat, the head is at the center of the swirling cosmos where the sun usually sits. This is because our inner star, our soul, is our brain, symbolized by the star-like gold design on the forehead of the Preceptor's mask. There's a fun play on words here. In Latin, the word for sun is sol, S-O-L. At Castle Sol, the banner for the eclipse looks like Golden Rune 1. Our soul is a star, like the sun, Sol, is also a star. This theory also implies that if our souls are stars, then the reverse may also be true. Stars are souls. The sun could be a soul, an enormous golden rune. We discussed previously how runes are grace, which is the golden light that gives us life. This could explain why Selen says, Glintstone sorcery is the study of the stars and the life therein. The Erd tree is a tree of memory. The memories of the inhabitants of the lands between are hewn into it upon their end. Memory and souls are closely intertwined, so perhaps it could also be said that the Erd tree is a tree of souls. Some people have theorized that the sun is within the Erd tree. This is suggested by the rays of sunlight emitting from it and from the warming stone, which mentions how the Erd tree was once as warm as the gentle sun. If the Erd tree is akin to a tree of souls, and the sun is a soul, an enormous golden rune, then perhaps it is possible that the sun was imbued into the Erd tree at some point. The icon shield depicts a brown Erd tree, and parts of the Erd tree look like normal tree bark. What could have changed was a powerful spell to imbue the Erd tree with the power of the sun. So to recap, the game is suggesting that the runes function like stars, with mass and gravity. It may be that the rune represents our soul, our memory, and thus our brain, which is supported by evidence for the rune being located within our head. As seen in the Preceptor's big hat, Our head, but more importantly, the brain inside our head, is the star at the center of the cosmos. How could it possibly make any sense that our brains are stars? Is this just some fun fantasy game magic, or is there real-world precedence for this idea? The famous mythologist Joseph Campbell said, "I've a feeling that consciousness and energy are the same thing somehow. Where you see energy, you see consciousness." I studied neuroscience for a bit, and one thing I learned that fundamentally changed how I think is this. Your consciousness is not your neurons. Your consciousness is the pattern of electrical activity that is made possible because of the wiring of your neurons. A popular analogy is that the brain is hardware and consciousness is software. Electricity is a type of energy. In a very real way, you are energy. Your consciousness is part of the very fabric of reality. Use your finger, touch your desk, your computer, your phone. You can feel those physical objects. Your feelings are interacting with physical matter that exists in our 3D reality. Those objects are made of atoms. Your finger is made of atoms. Yet the magic of consciousness is that this ordinary physical interaction between these atoms transforms into a sensory feeling thanks to the nature of your nervous system. These purely physical interactions become electrical signals, which become conscious experiences. If the universe is energy and you are energy, is it possible that the same physical laws that govern the cosmos also govern your consciousness? Research has found that the universe is remarkably similar in structure to the human brain. An astrophysicist and a neurosurgeon use statistical methods to compare the network connectivity, distribution, and density of neurons in the cortex with the cosmic web, the pattern of matter distribution across the universe. The structures differ in size by some 27 orders of magnitude, but if you ignore that, it is a tantalizing level of similarity. The two patterns sort of overlap. I don't bring this up to suggest that the universe thinks, but to suggest that the reason for the similar distribution pattern is because the two operate according to similar principles, albeit at different scales. The distribution of matter in the universe is determined by mass and the pull of gravity. The distribution of neurons is determined by what? The game tells us. It's the pull of meaning. The game seems to be suggesting that there's a parallel between how stars, mass, and gravity operate, and how runes, aka our brains, operate. The key concept here is the idea of pull. I think we can connect the pull of gravity with the pull of meaning, as described by the laws of causality and regression. It's legitimate for us to use the laws of causality and regression to describe both our brains and the cosmos, because these laws describe all things. Causality is the pull between meanings, that which links all things in a chain of relation. Regression is the pull of meaning, that all things yearn eternally to converge. If these laws describe all things, then this should include stars and runes, and we can refer to these things as meanings. Using visual symbolism, we can equate stars, runes, and causalities. The law of causality manifests a small ring of causality within, and these Golden Order fundamentalism incantations are described as rings of light. Thus, a ring of causality is a ring of light, specifically golden light. The middle of a causality is empty space, a hole, and I think we may be able to call this hole a black hole. Because on the cover of the Golden Order Principia, the book which describes the laws of regression and causality, we see the golden rings, or causalities, of the Elden Ring itself, which have black hole centers. Likewise, the golden runes seem to have this same basic pattern, a black hole surrounded by gold. In most runes, you don't see the black hole, but Golden Rune 1 begins as a black hole, one surrounded by a golden ring of light. As we collect runes, they gather around this central black hole, until our hypothesized collapse into a real black hole occurs in Heroes Rune 3. Likewise, the same visual imagery applies to stars. If you take a cross-section and use the symbol of the black hole to represent the gravitational center, then it makes more sense. I like to think of the golden rings of causalities as being the 2D versions of the 3D golden rune objects. If stars are symbolized by causalities, then the fabric of space-time in which these celestial bodies sit may be represented by the regression matrix and Radagon's seal. The seal of Raya Lucaria is a hexagonal matrix akin to Radagon's seal, and around the outside and here in the middle are stars, which exist as points in the matrix. It was Radagon who ordered the Carian preceptors to don the mask of confidence, whose mouth is sewn shut with a golden thread in a matrix-like design, and the ends of these threads look like stars. Additionally, Radagon possessed both golden tailoring tools and a golden sewing needle, suggesting he is adept at working with fabric. Given these connections between Radagon and fabric, I think it fits nicely that regression represents the fabric of space-time. In the cosmos, the pull of meaning is the pull of gravity, and it's how celestial bodies exert influence over each other. This is the pull between meanings, the links between all things, described by the law of causality. The law of regression describes how everything wishes to converge into one. We know that at the beginning of time, everything existed within the singularity, which exploded out in the Big Bang to create the universe. A singularity exists at the center of black holes, and we have a tiny black hole in the center of the runes. Perhaps this is a fragment of the original singularity, a black hole from which the universe was born. Perhaps these fragments remember what it was like when everything was one, and they yearn to be one again. Now it is time to discuss the brain. If I may get personal for a moment, I would like to express how genuinely happy I am to be able to share this next section with you all. The brain and consciousness fascinate me, and even after having taken classes to formally study neuroscience, I feel it was through this game, the laws of causality and regression, that I achieved my deepest understanding of how the brain works. When I first came across causality, symbolized by these circles, and regression, symbolized by this matrix and central line, I immediately thought of neural networks. In the brain, a neural network is a group of interconnected neurons that send signals to each other. An artificial neural network refers to a type of machine learning model in the field of artificial intelligence that is inspired by how neurons operate in the human brain. All fancy modern AI models like ChatGPT are based on artificial neural networks. You can think of them as math representations of how the brain works. I think that we can use causality and regression to describe how the brain and consciousness work using neural networks to make the link between the concepts. This is a basic diagram of a neural network. Each circle represents a neuron, and the lines between them represent the connections between the neurons. Each of these circles here, these neurons, has its own meaning. Each neuron is a meaning and is eligible to be described by the laws of regression and causality. A neuron might represent the meaning of your phone number, the smell of cinnamon, or your pet's face. The law of causality describes that which links all things in a chain of relation. These links are the connections between the neurons. When you train a neural network to learn something, what happens is that each connection is assigned a value, called a weight, which indicates the strength of the relationship between each neuron. As we spoke about before, weight is the force exerted on an object by a gravitational field. It is, quite literally, the pull. Like the pull of gravity, the pull of meaning is described by weight. This is why we can say that the pull of meaning is what determines the connections and distribution of neurons in the brain. Neurons which are closer to one another in meaning have a stronger connection, a higher weight value, thus a stronger pull. Similar to how the closer celestial bodies are, the stronger the gravitational pull they exert on each other. The law of regression describes a different process, the desire of all things to converge. Let's return to the neural network diagram. The input layers are sensory neurons. The neurons in the retina of your eyes that pick up light signals, the ones connected to your eardrum that hear the vibrations of sound waves, the neurons in your skin that feel touch and heat. Those sensory inputs are the first layer, which begin as just abstract physical stimuli, but they are transformed layer by layer into more complex sensations, ideas, and meanings. Light waves are translated into the beauty of a sunset, sound waves transform into your favorite song, a tactile depression on your lips becomes a kiss. The many abstract physical sensations converge into what we call our conscious experience. This convergence of many meanings into one meaning, our consciousness, is a process of regression. I think there's evidence that the game's use of regression is meant to be connected to the mathematical definition of regression. Even though I'm briefly going to talk about math and statistics, subjects which are typically disliked for their dryness and difficulty, know that this is all for the purpose of understanding how the brain works. In a way, the answers are literally inside your head. The connections between neurons evoke visual similarity to the regression matrix. This is because regression, specifically linear regression, is similar to the math behind artificial neural networks. Both involve learning a mapping of the inputs to the outputs by optimizing weights and biases. Neural networks are special because they involve many layers, many repetitions of the regression process. In statistics, the most common form of regression is the process of creating a best fit line that is the mean of all input data points. If you rotate Radagon's Elden rune 45 degrees, it looks just like the best fit line plot here. The data points in the plot are the different meanings, the causalities, which regression aims to take the average of. Radagon's Elden rune representing the line of regression may be why the central line in the rune is always strongly emphasized. The law of regression heals all negative statuses, dispels special effects, and reveals mimicry in all its forms. Status effects and mimicry are all differences from the norm, and using the law of regression returns everything to the norm, the best fit line. Thus, Radagon's Elden rune represents the best fit line, the mean for a matrix of different meanings, and the process of finding this mean is called regression. Regression is the meaning of many meanings. This fits with how it's described, the pull of meaning, that all things wish eternally to converge. More generally, I think we can say that regression results in a shared meaning that is a combination of all summed meanings. We see this in the Golden Order seal, 3 rings being regressed into a single middle ring. In our neural network, these neurons from the previous layer converge to a neuron in the next layer, where their individual meanings are combined. This is how regression plays out at the level of a single neuron. But this process is also playing out across your brain as a whole. Regression is the desire of all things to converge. In this case, of all the neurons to converge onto one meaning, your consciousness. Your consciousness is the pull of meaning. The way I like to visualize this is with a plasma ball. The plasma touching the outside manifests the causalities, the various memories and sensory inputs. These points are conjoined in the center, at the plasma ball, which I like to think of as consciousness. Our neurons are constantly firing, evoking new thoughts and memories and visions in our mind's eye, an electric symphony of meaning. I think this is such a great visual analogy because it looks like the rune objects. Converging many meanings into one is what the rune objects appear to be doing, representing the regressive process for a single moment in time. Our brain is symbolized by the rune, and the details of the rune's design and behavior represent the process of consciousness. This golden substance around the outside is lowercase r runes. They are knowledge, memory, experience, light, Whatever you want to call it, we've spoken about how all of these are kind of equivalent. The black hole in the center is the single point of convergence, this central pole of regression, where all meanings converge into one meaning. If you call this gold substance light, you can say this is the regression of light inputs converging to create the 3D world you see. If you call it memory, it becomes a model for how the sum total of your past experiences make you, you. If you call it sensory stimuli, it describes your conscious experience as you watch this video. In his legendary TV series Cosmos, Carl Sagan talked about how the heavier elements like gold and iron were formed by fusion reactions that only occur in the hearts of stars.
The cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
The parallels presented by this game go a step further. Not only are we made of star stuff, but our brain and our consciousness, as systems of energy, may be governed by the same laws that govern the cosmos. The pull of meaning, as described by the laws of regression and causality, govern both. The fundamental laws of the Golden Order, the law of causality and the law of regression, are detailed in the Golden Order Principia, a dense and complex academic treatise that contains the Order's fundamental principles. The Golden Order Principia is no doubt inspired by Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. Newton's Principia introduced the laws of gravity and demonstrated that the force retaining the planets in their orbits is one in kind with terrestrial gravity, ending the thinking that the celestial and terrestrial realms operate under different laws. Newton's Principia equated the laws of the stars with the laws of ordinary objects here on Earth. The Golden Order Principia has the same function, but with a fantasy twist. It equates the laws governing the outer order, the heavens and stars, to the inner order, the self and the soul, each governed by the pull of gravity, the pull of meaning. As above, so below. As the husband of Rennala of Caria, the red-haired Ratigan studied sorcery, and as the husband of Queen Marika, he studied incantations. Thus did the hero aspire to be complete. Golden Order fundamentalism is scholarship in all but name. The rules of Golden Order fundamentalism are the rules for sorcery, the study of the stars and the life within.
Long ago, we began as stardust, born of a great rupture far across the skies. We too are children of the greater will. Is that not divine? Is that not sublime? And yet, none can fathom its implications, its utter brilliance.
This is the first part of a series of videos which are part of a comprehensive black hole theory. They won't all be released in succession, but they all relate to the importance of this symbol, a black hole, usually surrounded by a ring of gold. If you enjoyed this video and feel it contributes positively to the Elden Ring community, please leave a like to help boost its visibility within YouTube's algorithm. If you want to see the next video pop up on your homepage when it comes out, please subscribe. My fellow Tarnished, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.